Hi, everyone. This is Ruth Ratliff, and today I am interviewing Kathleen Covalt, and she has her master's in psychological counseling and a doctorate in educational psychology. She also has beautiful intuitive oracle card deck that she designed herself, and she gives readings with them as well. And she also creates and presents her own courses and classes on a variety of topics, one of which is my most favorite, which is the UFO UAP phenomena. Thank you, Kathleen. What a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you, Ruth. It's one of my favorite topics too.
And I was
I
trying
love
not
the
to
whole,
do that with doing it with a straight face, watching you with your little blue friend there.
yes. Would you like a seat? Sure, he would. I'll sit over here for now. Good.
So, to start off with, why don't you tell us how you got interested in this topic? Because, as a psychologist,
Mhm.
working with clients and um, teaching people, I mean, we're all, multi-interest people. We all have different interests, but I'd love to hear this story.
Sure. Well, I've been open to a lot of interesting things in my life. I guess I can start back when I was going for my master's degree and I knew I was empathic, but when I had clients and I realized, wow, I'm really intuitive, I'm psychic, I know things about people that I didn't know how I knew. And I decided not to follow up and get a real counseling job. Instead, I graduated with my master's, but I just started exploring all different kinds of metaphysical concepts, all different kinds of spiritual disciplines, healing touch, energy type healing and stuff. So I've known for a very long time that the nature of reality is not adequately described by our culture, by our academic institutions. I have had a million experiences, a million a day experiences that don't fit into what our culture understands is how reality works. Telepathy, different kind of clairvoyance, like I said, energy healing. And so I've always been open to the idea that I'm really interested in how do things really work. So my husband and I graduated both with our doctorate degrees. And we were sitting in our living room in the summer of 2000. And we were watching the Olympics. My husband loves the Olympics. We were watching opening ceremonies. And the portion of the ceremony was called The Awakening, which, as it turns out, that's kind of perfect. And from the bottom, the base sort of ground of the stadium where the opening ceremonies were taking place, there arose this art installation. And it was this huge head with big eyes. And I saw this image similar to this, not exact. And it was the first time I had seen that type of image. And it was one of those, aha, I really need to pay attention. What is that? There's something going on here. I really felt it that I needed to pay attention to that. So I researched what did that represent to the Australians? Well, it turns out that the Aboriginal population in Australia have venerated this image for thousands and thousands of years. They're called the Wandjina, and they are found in cave paintings in the western section of Australia. And specially tasked Aboriginal people will go year after year and repaint these images that have been on the walls of these caves, like I said, for up to sometimes they date them 30,000 years ago. And they believe that these beings came down in what they call the dream time, and that some went back up into the sky and can be seen today as lights in the sky. And some of them went underground and are associated with the water and the springs there that are so valuable to them out there in the desert. And so they venerate them year after year in the hopes that they will help the rains come and the water flow. So that was really important to me to understand that that image was kind of ancient. Then, only a couple months later, I really wanted to move to New York State. I'm originally a Jersey girl. I used to go up to the Hudson Valley of New York when I was young. I just loved it up there, the beauty. And so my husband and I, only a few months later, moved to an area near Pine Bush, New York. I did not know it. It is considered a hotspot of UFO activity. And because I'm intuitive and people just like to talk to me and stuff, they were telling me these amazing experiences that they had had while they lived in that area. And my husband and I met this wonderful couple who did so much for me personally and helping me embrace my intuitive skills and help me grow in that. And they were running a support group that the local people had for people to come from actually all over to talk about their UFO ET experiences, because this was in the year, I don't know, maybe it was like 2002, 2002, 2003, 2004, that kind of year. And I mean, it's getting better now, but certainly 20 years ago or so, people would mock people who said that they had those kinds of experience. They'd shame them. They didn't believe them. They didn't want to hear anything about it. So people needed a safe space to go and to share their story. So I would go with my husband and this other couple, and there'd be some other people there that would go every month. And these other people would come and they would share their stories. And like I said, I'm very intuitive. And because of my counseling background, I could feel the genuine sincerity of their stories. They had no idea what was going on. They wanted answers. Some were frightened, some were just amazed. There was all different kinds of stories. For instance, one young woman, she was a teenager, came with her mom, and she said she was walking home from school and she was walking across a field. It might have been a golf course, I kind of forget, but it was a wide open area. And she saw these, she described them as three weird children off in a distance, hopping weirdly across the field. And sure enough, some other people had seen the beings move like that too. And so we were able to tell people that, yes, other people have had that kind of experience, or no, wow, tell me more, but in a supportive way. And that was really, it laid the foundation for me to believe that something genuine is going on that we don't understand, we still don't understand, but it really opened me up to the phenomena and the reality of it.
Fantastic. Yeah, and from that, you created. I've attended several of them, of Kathleen's presentations, and they're fascinating. The depth, the amount of research that she has done into this phenomena is really amazing, and it is eye-opening. You can tell that you're very passionate about the subject.
Yeah. And I think this is such an important time for it, Ruth, because people are opening up a lot more. And the wonderful thing is there's been things within the government itself that's opening up, and things within the scientific community, that there's those pioneering scientists that are willing to take a look and look at it from the scientific perspective. And I'm hoping tonight maybe to share some stories about some of the really cool science that's been already done. And once you hear this, you're like, wow, it kind of gives it more credence that, wow, it really could be real. And the other important thing is, I really think it speaks to we're coming up to a very important time for transition for all of humanity, I believe. And we're starting to open up to the fact that, like I said earlier, the nature of reality is under question. We're going to open up to a new view of what is reality and what is our place in it. And do we have friends or neighbors that have always been here, but we haven't really adequately perceived before? I do think we're getting heightened senses, and that's some of the issue. Humanity is rising a bit in vibration ourselves. Maybe we're starting to match some of their vibration. That's just a theory I have.
I think I agree with you on that, because I believe now it could be with the advent of the internet and everybody sharing videos of what they've seen in the skies. But I know they've been like in the art, the ancient artwork,
Yes.
like with ancient aliens, you see the little UFO in the back of, Da Vinci's painting or something.
Yes.
But I feel that their vibration is raising now, so they're able to perceive
Mhm.
these beings, and their craft
That's right.
more. Yes, yes.
That's right. And one of my favorite classes that I teach is actually called The Rainbow Body. Could it be related to the UFO, UAP phenomena? And I'm one of the only people that have sort of made this correlation. I first learned about the rainbow body from a wonderful teacher. His name's William Henry, and he's on the Ancient Alien series. And he does his own, he leads people to Egypt. He does his own classes. I really think he's a special, highly evolved being himself. And so then I branched off from the things that he taught, and I was researching it on my own. And I found this amazing book by Father Francis Tizo, V. Tizo. And it talks about the rainbow body and resurrection. And it poses the question, could the rainbow body be something similar or potentially the same as with what people like Jesus and maybe his mother Mary have done, what Padme Sambhava, who is known within Tibetan Buddhism, has done? And just real briefly, I'll just tell you about this idea. Within Tibetan Buddhism, and there's only one ancient school, perhaps pronounced Nyingma. I'm a little off on pronunciations. But within this ancient school of Tibetan Buddhism, they believe that people can do these practices so that at the time of death, now I mean a lot of practice, like maybe 60 years worth of practice or thousands of hours of practice. It's not just anybody, but it's a master person, a person who has attained a high level of vibration already. And with these certain practices, at the time of death, their body shrinks, and you're not supposed to touch the body. It shrinks and shrinks. And for some of them, it literally disappears. It turns into light or perhaps plasma. And that it's still a body, and their consciousness can still be attached to that body, or their soul can still be attached to that body. So that now in this new light body, they have the ability to perhaps live wherever these little fellows go when we don't see them anymore. Is this a vibrational strata? Let me tell you about this too. This might also be helpful for folks to think about. We understand the electromagnetic spectrum, and we know that we only see a certain portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is the white light that is then broken down into the Roy G. Biv, or the red, orange, yellow, all the way up to indigo and violet. And so we only see that portion. But then we have animals that can see and hear beyond that spectrum. And then we have technology that can go infrared and ultraviolet, and they can go into the different X-rays and gamma rays, stuff like that. So we have technology that we can perceive this spectrum that goes into infinity on all ends, but we perceive this, our technology perceives that. But who lives over there? Who lives over there. It's just another part of the vibrational spectrum. There could be whole worlds that live there. So, where do human beings go when they die? Do they have a type of body that their consciousness or their soul is still attached to, but they shed this lower vibrating physical body? Perhaps. And so the rainbow body idea is that this physical body is literally, in alchemy, people say you turn lead into gold. People don't realize that true alchemists were interested in the golden body, or again, turning this vibrational dense body into a light body. That's the real work of a true alchemist. And so, what can you do when you can turn this body into light? You can live in these other realms. If you slow your vibration, then you can be seen in this density. So some of these masters, like I believe Jesus actually, and his mother Mary and Padme Sambhava, and this person that Father Francis Tizo researched, who in 1998, his name was Kenpo A. Chow, and he died in 1998, and then his body shrunk and was transformed into light. So you follow up on trains of research like that, and it becomes more real to you that something really could happen that we don't understand about, like I said earlier, the nature of reality, what our physical bodies can do, and the fact that maybe these little guys understand that, how to raise and lower their frequencies so that they can be seen or they can disappear again.
Yes, absolutely. I that's how it occurs to me. The ones that I have seen myself, it occurs that they're in a different density, and they just sort of appear, and it's almost like they're plasma orbs, and it's almost like they're coming in and out of a different vibration.
Yes.
Yeah, a different, and it's fascinating that I think that, like you say, you're trying to tie in the fact that human beings who, like you say, who have studied, who have done incredible work on themselves for many, many, many years, can actually attain this
Mhm.
because of the very heavy body that we're in, and
Mhm.
that it could be that that is the basis for the science, right? To make it a little more relatable for people to understand that that these things do exist.
Yeah,
These other people, are space brothers and sisters,
that's
do
right.
exist, but they exist in a different plane of existence.
That's right. A different
They're able to
frequency.
go back and forth, right? Because,
That's
and I
right.
think quantum physics probably already is onto that and understands that concept.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Did you want me to share my
I was
experience?
hoping now you would share your story because it's so amazing. And you have a few, actually.
I do, which is really amazing. Um, my husband, many, many years ago, or already saw a UFO in the 70s. It was basically, he saw it as a light driving down the highway in the distance, and then came up upon the light, and it was a ship that was rotating with all these beautiful colored lights underneath, absolutely no sound whatsoever, completely silent, and it was over a home. And he gets out of the car, jumps up, and goes, "Hey!" Brave soul that he is. And it just went over the hills, like at the speed of light, almost so fast you could hardly see it. No sound propulsion whatsoever. So that was his journey. And in meeting him, I would always say to him, if we ever see a UFO again and you jump out of the car like that, we're done. You can. So he would always make fun of me because just maybe about 5 years ago, we're driving down Route 80, going to dinner actually, and I look over at him and I see, which is almost like maybe a couple lanes over from us, this enormous, look like the sun, this orb. It was the size of a bus or bigger, just keeping up with us, right? And I was like, Jim, eyes left. He turns his, looks at it, immediately pulls over. We jump out of the car. I was filled with awe, not fear. That was
Like
about,
he was, like
and
he was.
he was. There was no fear. It was complete awestruck. Didn't think to get my phone, but there was one right behind it. And then there were two up in the sky also. So those two, as soon as we got out of the car, they flew up and met the other two that were in the sky and went west towards Pennsylvania. Needless to say, we were beside ourselves. So later on that evening, after we got back from dinner, I went on MUFON. You've talked about MUFON, the organization, and I just happened to, I wanted to report it. And I saw there was somebody in Pennsylvania across the border from us who reported 4 orange orbs
Oh my gosh.
right around the time, same
Right,
time. So that corroborated that. No, I'm not losing my mind.
right.
But it felt like, hi, it's time to wake up. That's I definitely trust my feelings as you do too, as an intuitive and an empath. My feelings don't lie, and that's what it felt like. It did not feel threatening at all in the least. It felt like a wake-up call. Yeah. And
Well,
then only a few months after that, at Christmas time, walk outside to let my dog out, and there is a blue one blinking rhythmically up on the hills. We have a hill up on our property, and then up top of that, there's like a line of trees. But above the tree line, there was a blue one blinking. It was blinking like that for hours, and I do have a video of that. I actually have it up on my channel, but I will put it up here as so the folks can see it. And that just was like that for hours. And then it disappeared, but it didn't disappear entirely. It's almost like it faded away over time. And then it left this beautiful line of light turquoise in the sky for a long time after that.
oh, that's so interesting.
Right? It didn't just disappear or, blip out like some of them do. That was interesting. And then not too long ago, we were again driving. We're at a stop sign. It was in the evening, and we saw this very small, very bright light just go right across in front of our car. It's crazy, and it looked like it was a small one. It looked like a little ship or a little orb.
Right.
Very super, super bright,
And like a white bright.
very white.
White,
Yes,
right. Mm-hmm.
completely white.
Yeah.
So that, shifted my ground of being completely.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I was a little bit scared after I saw the orange ones. I had to work through my fear
Yeah.
of that of the unknown.
That's right. It's
Or
a visceral fear. I think our little physical bodies are seeing something so different, so unknown, so foreign to us. So I think the physical body just will vibrate with that fear. It's just so unknown.
yes, exactly, exactly. But I do believe that it's just interesting to me that after I saw these, I started to study sound therapy in earnest.
Oh, wonderful. So it was like a wake-up call,
I
wasn't it?
I think so. I
Yeah.
do. I do. And I do feel like I've been moving ahead exponentially since then with my own healing journey as well as the development of my own intuitive skills as
Yeah.
well.
Wow.
And
That's
just,
beautiful.
yeah, and I just couldn't get enough. It was like it was the guy on Close Encounters of the Third Kind when he was building the Devil's Tower. Do,
Right.
do, 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 right? And I couldn't get I couldn't get my fill of everything UFO.
Yeah.
Just, but the good, but not the sensational drama producing stuff, the fear producing stuff. I wanted to know who these people were really, and there are so many of us that have had relationships, good relationships, very helpful relationships with these beings. And they are, and I've had a couple other experiences too that maybe we'll talk about later, that
Well,
the sound therapy.
wow, thank you. Those are amazing. And let me just give you some nice validation for your feelings. Uh, just a couple years ago, there was a study put out by the Dr. Edgar Mitchell. It's called FREE, Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences. And Ray Hernandez is the primary person who goes around and talks about this research, and it's really major. It was really one of the first scientifically qualitative and quantitative, because they had people fill out from all over the world a survey about their experience. So they had well over 3,000 people respond to this survey, and they statistically, correlated all the data and put it all together and stuff. And what they found out was some really interesting things that, and this is what Ray Hernandez always says over and over, is what they found is not what is in the traditional media portrayal of the UFO ET experience. It's not. It's more along the lines of what you're saying, which is this. People think from the media, perhaps TV, video, movies, that when you're going to see an ET and have that kind of experience, he's going to look like this, right? Or gray. They call the grays. Well, that is a popular face, actually, but it's only third popular. The most common experience that people have is what they call an energy being, or the orb, okay? Something that is amorphous or light, and they call it some sort of energy being. It doesn't have a regular shape. They feel 78% of the people say that in fact they had telepathic downloads. So they did have literally a communication with the beings. The second most common being that people have an experience with is a human-looking being. And I'll go back to the rainbow body in just a minute and fill that in, but that's just, and then, like I said, the third one is a guy like this with the big eyes and the big head. So your experience is actually more along the common. People experience these energies or light as the phenomena that they're interacting with. Then the second thing that you said that's really, really, really important, and I think is probably going to be the most important thing that we talk about tonight, is that you said to your husband ahead of time, if we ever see one of these things and you get out of the car, forget it. And look what you did. Stop the car, jump out. So wonderfully, your immediate intuitive reaction was, oh, let me get to know you. Hello, just like your husband. Hello, oh my goodness. And you didn't run in fear like you thought you might when you were intellectually thinking about it. But your body response was openness to it. And then you start thinking about it, and then you get nervous, and then your whole worldview is shattered. But your immediate response was, oh my gosh, hello, who are you? Which is wonderful. What the free research showed from all the people who filled out the survey was that the longer they had experiences, the more experiences they had, the more positive they reported their experiences. So if they just had one experience and it blew their worldview, and oh my gosh, they didn't think that could really happen, it was fearful for them. For a lot of people, it's a fearful experience because, like I said before, your body's reacting, it's completely unknown. But if you have a couple of experiences and you're kind of coming to terms with it, you're realizing that, wow, I'm not going crazy. This is really happening. And then you getting in touch with your heart, how do you feel about it? The more experiences you have, the more positive it gets, because you are opening up more. And in terms of what the beings are communicating with you, either telepathically or just an energy type communication, it's a positive one. And so if we can say anything tonight, I think that's the most important thing, that while the media has portrayed this as scary, as, the cookbook, they're going to eat us kind of sort of thing. In fact, the great majority of people in the free research have said that the more they had the experience, the more they wanted to have more experiences. They didn't want it to happen. And then the third thing, Ruth, that I'm going to validate for you is that these people said that they felt more spiritual. They got more concerned about the earth and what was going on with her and the pollution and things like that. And they wanted to evolve more after spiritually, after their experiences. So exactly what you said is in that research.
Fascinating. I was just thinking as you were speaking about that, about the length of time that there's a relationship, and not to minimize anybody's horrific experience about being abducted or anything like that, but I read the book Communion some years ago, and Whitley Schreiber, I believe that's how you say his name, he said, I remember, he did recount a lot of terrifying experiences that he and his family had, but at the end of the book, I remember him saying that they developed a relationship with these beings. And it was a love, like a love relationship, a friendship, love relationship. And he said it was very deep, on a much deeper level than he had had with any other human being, because I think of the telepathic connection as well. And I think that there are certain people who are being watched, if for lack of a better word, from the time they're little kids up until the time they're adults and beyond. And apparently they're I don't know, but I've heard that they are being studied, or you know it yeah that it you can't really even say what is really true, unless you've yeah. So I know that I don't know about this topic, but it's just what I've heard, and that I feel that there is such a opportunity here for us
That's right.
to grow from this, to open up to the possibility of contact. It's already happened, from what I'm understanding and hearing from other people watching videos like this. It's here. They've been here for thousands and thousands of years. Some people even say that we were seeded. That that's a hot topic too. But it's very, it's again, why not explore this?
That's
Why
right.
stick your head in the sand? What are you going to gain from that?
That's right.
I mean, you can be safe, with your blinders on, but let's come at it with this attitude of excitement and wonder, and moving forward and expanding. And I understand the fear, believe me, because I feel it too still, about
Mhm.
the unknown.
That's
But
right.
I
Yeah.
want that part of me that it really wants to experience this and to move us all forward as a group of vibrational beings, to that it's time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the synchronicity of that is, so I told you my husband and I moved to the Pine Bush area, and we met all these people that were telling us about their experiences. And that's what really opened me up to this. And we bought a little house, and it was on this called the Shawangunk Ridge. It's beautiful. And it was up on top of this mountain. right over the ridge was Whitley Strieber's cabin where he had the experience. And yeah, and he said that he would go out into the woods and it would take all the courage that he had. And he would go out there to meet them at night in the woods, again, to develop this relationship. And the other thing that he talks about that I think is really important for our discussion this evening is that it's complicated. He also said that within the context of him meeting these, he called them the visitors, that deceased people would come and he would have conversations, and then with these people who would show up and they would tell him things, and he didn't even know, for this one friend, that he had died a little while earlier, and here's the friend is telling him about, you know, secret aircraft or something like that. And then other people would come up to his cabin and they would also meet deceased relatives. So like I said earlier, it's complicated. It's not just about physical beings coming and going. There's something about, like I said earlier, what happens to human beings when we die? What happens? Do we have a type of astral body that's living somewhere else? I don't know. What happens to our consciousness? I believe we have a soul that is attaching lifetime after lifetime in a reincarnation sense to different bodies. So it's very complicated, and Whitley pointed that out, and it helped him grow and spiritually evolve as well. His experiences, and now he wouldn't have traded it for the world, you know. He really thinks that it's a spiritual experience right now, but it took him all that, you know, some time to get to that.
To process it. And I feel like in my small way with what I did see, it took me, a good year or so to process that and to come to an acceptance of it,
Yeah,
of that piece of it, and also to take from it I think I don't know, but I feel like it opened me up. I do,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
because my vista, the blinders have opened a little, right?
That's right. And
Yeah.
and that is when I talk about the rainbow body, the reason I think I bring this up a lot is I believe that it is our goal, our target, our vision that we can have, because I believe it's how humanity is evolving.
Yeah.
And what is evolving for us? It's expanding our awareness. That is part and parcel of what human evolvement is all about, is opening up our consciousness, expanding our awareness, being able to perceive a much broader range of reality. And so that's what that experience did for you. It started that process in a really big way.
And on that, to segue into now, the process is starting in a really big way with our governments are acknowledging and creating protocols to work with or deal with these UFO UAP sightings.
Yes.
Want to speak into that too?
Yes. So to tie Whitley back and then to go into that,
Sure.
one of the other things that Whitley says is that he also thought that in some of his experience, there were human beings involved. And that's weird. Like, what does that mean? And I don't know how to explain that. And so we're now going to go to what the government is doing right now. So exciting, paradigm shifting, major deal. The but is, though, this is what's going on that we can see, that's obvious, that's being presented to the public. But what has been going on for many years, we still don't know what's been going on behind the scenes. But let's talk about what is going on that's so important. December 16th, 2017 was the opening to what's going on now. The New York Times, Politico, and the Washington Post, all on the same day, put an article out about Luis Elizondo, and he left ATIP, which was an organization that he was running within the government that was studying UFOs. Luis Elizondo wanted to get the information that he was gathering, that particularly Navy pilots, but other branches of the military as well, were having these experiences with these objects that they couldn't explain. And there was even some potential hazard to the pilots because they were coming kind of close to some of these objects. And even if they weren't that close, maybe they would get shocked and they wouldn't know how to deal with it or whatever. So it was a danger, let's just say, to pilots who aren't expecting other whizzing light things in the sky. Okay. And so Luis Elizondo was trying to get word up to the then Secretary of Defense, who was James Mattis. Luis Elizondo really had a strong positive relationship with James Mattis because he had served with him, and he was really, he honored this man, and he knew that this gentleman would want to know everything that was going on. But because of what's called stovepipes within the government structure, he could never get the word up that something really important was going on and that the government should take a serious look at it. He kept getting blocked by middle people in between him and the Secretary of Defense. Stopped it. Because what happens in the government is so many programs are classified at different levels. So the only people that know what's going on in that particular program are just those folks. And then it's called a stovepipe. Even your boss might not know what you're doing. And so the information gets locked up in all these different places, and it doesn't get shared. And for progress really to be made, we kind of need to share it, get new ideas, especially on something like this when we really don't know what's going on. We need a lot of eyes with a lot of perspectives, a lot of training to come in and to help out. That wasn't happening. So Luis Elizondo comes out and everything then starts, okay? I won't go into all of the details, but he has done so much. So Marco Rubio headed up as the head of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, a portion of a bill, a law that got signed into law by President Trump, so that a report would come out in June of 2021 that would talk about what the government knew about the UAP. For people who don't know about this, you know what UFO, unidentified flying object, but the government has started to call the same exact objects unidentified aerial phenomena. So when Ruth and I are talking about UFO, UAP, we're talking about the same thing. UAP is kind of the new lingo now. And so this report on June 25th, 2021 came out that talked about what they knew from 2004 to 2021, but they didn't get all the reports. They just got some of them because we talked about how people have been shamed. Well, it's worse. Within the military, if you had a sighting or an experience, not only would you get ribbed maybe by your fellow military people, but you might get sent to a psychiatrist, and you questioned your sanity. Well, they're questioning their sanity. Well, they could take away their pilot license or something. So people did not want to share their experiences, so they didn't report them. But anyway, they did get 144 reports within that time period, mostly within the last 2 years, 1999 to 2001, because the Navy did change their reporting guidelines. Please tell us, they said. Now we really want to know. And they made it more, you fill these forms out or whatever. They made it more structured how you do it. So out of 144 unidentified flying objects, only one was identified as a deflating balloon. 143 other objects remain unidentified to the government with all the best radar, with all the best types of intelligence that we have. They couldn't say what they were. And I think it was 80, 81, in the 80s somewhere, had multiple sensors on that object. So infrared radar, a different kind of radars, all the different military sensors that they have. They had multiple on the same object. So maybe eyes on as well. So a lot of good data. So because that came out and said, there are things going around. And by the way, they're not just in the skies. Some of these objects are called transmedium. What that means is some of these objects are going into the oceans or observed in the oceans. They used to be called a USO, or unidentified submersive or submersible object in the water, and going really, really fast. So now this all came out. Senator Senator Gillibrand, I don't know how to pronounce your first name. I think it's Kirsten, I think is how you pronounce it. I may be wrong. She came out, and then Marco Rubio and another Democrat from Arizona who was a representative, Gallego, I'm mispronouncing his name, I think too. Anyway, a bunch of these Congress people came out and supported another bill that got signed by President Biden this past December and made into law. This is huge, and this is what is historic. This new law that just got signed in December 27th, I believe, 2021, not only authorizes, it says you have to create an official office either within the Department of Defense or in conjunction with the intelligence community. And you have to create an office so that any UAP, anything that has been reported on UAP at all, has to be brought and centralized to this office. There's a central repository to collect from everywhere, even NASA, NOAA, Department of Energy, these other places too. So all of that has to come and go to the central office. And more than that, they're going to analyze, of course, the data, but they're also going to have a team available to go out quickly. They literally call it in the law a rapid response team to go out and investigate any of these reports. And they're going to look at could they be, of course, foreign countries, positive or negative, or allies or not? Could they be other people's drones or technology? Of course, they're going to look into that as well. They're also going to look into, and we can talk about this if you want, there is a nuclear connection. There's a correlation between some of the people's sightings with nuclear related things like submarines or nuclear missiles, even not even military, nuclear power stations. And they want to look at that specifically. So right now we have a law that says we are officially studying UAP, and we're sending people out. We want the data. Everybody's supposed to report it. And they have to have briefings to the different committees that deal with it. They have to have an annual report. And at least one of the reports has to be unclassified. So regular folk should be getting some of the data. Of course, I'm sure most of it will remain classified.
So when I heard you say that, I took your class and that you explained all this before, it was almost like, well, tell us something we don't know. But I'm not, but not to make light of this, because this is monumental. I mean, it really is. It's a step forward in the right direction when so much has been suppressed.
That's right. That's what it is. It's the opening up. And then, if you would like me to, I'll segue into the scientific aspect of this. Because may I now, or did you have more questions about the government part?
No, I was wondering if, and yeah, there's so much, because I know I watch Gaia and I watch a lot of, interviews on Gaia where people are experiencers and whatnot. But do you have any thoughts on what prompted this? What was it? Just those two people that you were referencing, or just the general? You just think it's the time? There's because there's timeline issues too with how our ascension, our raise as a species, raising our vibration. So that's why I'm just wondering if that had any.
I love what you're saying. Yes, 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 and yes. Yes to everything that you just said. I really think so. Luis Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, these are the guys that will go down in history as the people that have pushed this forward. There's another gentleman, Jim Semivan, he's been in the CIA. He's doing great work. Tom DeLonge was instrumental as well. There's a bunch of people here that have made, major have shifted the paradigm. However, why now? Yes, I too believe, Ruth, that it's time. It's literally time for humanity to evolve. And this is part of our evolution, and it's opening up, and it can't not happen. It's that kind of thing. It really is time for it to happen. Yes.
Very good.
There's a bigger picture here. There's a bigger play being played by us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Totally. So exciting.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Scary, but exciting at the same time. Really, beyond exciting. It gives me hope. There's that part of me that wants to hope, that is afraid to hope for that connection with the greater all, with these other the galactic people who are our family.
Yes, absolutely.
They are our family.
Well, let me go and tell you something about the rainbow body teachings. The Tibetans believe that those teachings where you accelerate the frequency of your body to turn it into light, you have to be a master, not just everybody, right? Lifetime after lifetime, you're attaining that ability. But that teaching is taught in 13 star systems. Us and 12 other star systems. I believe we have cousins, and some of those cousins have some sort of body, energetic wise, similar to our own, that they have already transformed their physical body into light and now can morph into the different dimensions or frequencies, if you will. And that some of them are here helping us, and some of those are the orbs that people have experiences with. That's what I believe, that we're getting help from our cousins, and that we are family with some of those beings. I really believe that as well.
Yeah, I was a little, now I don't know, if all this is true or not, but I was a little disappointed to hear that there are other beings that are higher vibrational, but still not, very enlightened. Who have a lot of service of self for self and egoic designs on power still, which was really disappointing, because I was like, oh well, they're all wonderful, because that was a piece of the fear for me was, well, are they nice?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're nice, I can feel that and I'll be okay with it. But so yeah, there's so much we don't know yet at this point. So
All my life, I've been attuning to the highest. I told you earlier, I have a relationship with Mary. I ask, for help and guidance from beings that I believe are pure of heart. And why not go that route where you have to feel just because it's interesting other that can materialize in front of you? You really have to go with your heart, which because they're so unknown, it is going to get complicated. Because are you going to fear just because they're so unknown? I don't know, or, what I love that you were open right away, but we are going to have to use our discernment. I don't want to say everybody's just because they're a higher vibe, they're going to have the good of all as their intent.
They could
Mhm.
have their own agenda, and it may
Mhm.
not, you talk about the world of duality, good and bad, light, dark, positive, negative, and that's really not the truth. It's all, nothing is true except, thinking makes it so, or nothing's good
Mhm.
and bad unless thinking makes it so. So there's that too, that piece of it where, even with people who have been abducted by the gray beings, they have they think they're just doing what they're doing. They're not trying to perpetrate any, horrible thing on people. They give them a horrible experience or frighten them. I think that they just have their own agenda.
Mhm.
So it almost requires you to be more to shift your perspective from to a higher plane,
Mhm.
to be able to manage that fear, to be able to discern, to use
Yeah.
your discernment in a helpful way, if that made sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's good to bring up that it's not just, we still have to be aware. I mean, we are thinking and feeling beings, and that's part of our gift is that we're sapient, we're thinking and feeling. And yes, we have to elevate the heart and trust our intuition, but our mind is important, logic is important, figuring stuff out is important. And so we have to use both.
Yes,
Yeah, for whatever's in front of us. Mm-hmm.
but what a possibility.
Mm-hmm. We really are here. That's what's so cool is we really are at this moment when we're taking part in it. We're taking part in this major shift, opening up. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully that will override any any fear that people hold.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the anticipation, the projecting out of what it could be, that when it actually happens, when there is more of an open contact made, I think then it'll be like, okay, now we know what to expect, at least of these particular, beings,
Yeah.
and just like kind of get our feet wet with that. And I wonder, do you think it's going to just to start closing? In closing, do you think, have any ideas about when that could happen, where there will be more of an open contact, even though I think it has happened already with certain people, of course, quite a bit, but an open contact with humanity?
Well, I think it's definitely occurring as we speak, like you said, that we're saying. I don't know when the big thing is going to happen, where it's going to be totally accepted and literally will be able to communicate with them on a fairly regular basis, which I see coming up. Uh, like we said, one of the hopeful things is, when they say the coming of the age of Aquarius, uh, I really think that's true. One of the things that you might remember I teach in my class is that when I was younger, we'd had the Earth and the moon was going around us, and then we said, okay, the Earth is going around the sun, and it got all the planets going on the sun, and that's how I thought of things when I was younger, very stagnant like that, well, circling, circling, circling. But really, what's going on is that the sun, with all the planets going around, is moving around the center of the galaxy, and it's kind of going like this, and it's kind of going up and down a galactic plane as far as we know now. And so at every single moment we are speeding through space, going around the center of this galaxy that is also moving in its neighborhood of galaxies, that is also moving in a greater neighborhood, and the whole universe is moving. And so there's constant movement, and we're in a different place, which means that as we move, we're in different alignments with different energies that are coming from other stars and other galaxies. And so we're bathing in a new energy. And maybe that part of the energetic field that we're going into is also maybe highly energized or not, but different than when we were back there. Just the field that we're going in itself, as well as the different alignments that we're going to be having. And this is the age of Aquarius, where we're literally going in to a new energy. We are entering the energy now. And that's what's helping the earth and the sun evolve as well. We're not going to get into all this now. It'd be too many things to talk about. But I also believe the earth and the sun are conscious beings and have their own souls and are evolving as well. So we're all evolving. And so this is why I have such hope, is because it is bigger than us, and it's all going on, and we're in the right place at the right time. And I believe our contact with our family, star families, I think this is part of our future, and it's happening right now as well. So when, I don't know when, but it is happening, like you said, to individuals. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's all the individuals, and it gets to such a level with all these people opening up that it just becomes bunk. There's something about how electrons sort of jump their little vibratory field that they're in. And I think it goes like, and then they're in the new one. So if we remember, it's within a blink of an eye that things change. So we're building towards something. We're building towards that blink. And just having this conversation openly tonight, I think, is helping raise the vibe, helping people understand this a little bit better, and opening up to these things.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that it probably is going to be happening a little bit, piecemeal, a little bit at a time here and there, because as a whole,
Mhm.
are we really, when people say, are we ready, for contact? You know, Probably not. I mean, but there are quite a few of us that are, and those that aren't, they are also on their soul journey as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
So
And
it's, you
my
know,
understanding, Ruth, is that as this happens, people will be given an opportunity to say no to it somehow. So it's not going to be black and white, at least in the very, I think there's going to be a lot of gray for a long time. So there'll be a bunch of us that it will be real for, but people can still say, no, I don't want to accept this into my world, into
that's
my reality.
totally fine.
Yes.
Everybody, we all get to choose, right? And
That's what I think's
free will.
happening.
Yes, and
Yes.
they don't have to. It's just, it's perfectly fine, and nobody
Mhm.
should judge anybody for not, for what they cannot accept at the stage of the game that they're at, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's very exciting. Whenever things change in that blink you're talking about, I think it's fascinating to be part of the journey, because it's the joy is in the journey.
Mhm.
It's the excitement that is building towards um, this very awe-inspiring potential for
Mhm.
humanity. And I think that the galactic family is rooting for us. I absolutely do. Absolutely. And wow, I'm always amazed at the information that you present, um, and the level of care and passion that you have for this topic and the other topics. So It's really an honor, Kathleen, to
Oh,
have
thank you.
hosted this video tonight for you and with you. Really wonderful conversation as always. And there's so much more to talk about. So we will definitely come up with some more topics. I think we're going to look into the connection with the body and movement next, and how that definitely dovetails beautifully with the work I'm doing as well. So I'll be excited to talk to you about that next time.
That's great, Ruth. Thank you so much. So happy we had this conversation. And amazing experiences. Thank you for sharing them.
Thank you, Kathleen. Take care.